Alrighty, friends, family, seething freaks that love to stalk me from every corner of the internet. Welcome to Marchese Methods. Today's topic is going to be the first installment of our Marchese Daily series, where you get to hear a little bit more raw and unfiltered thoughts. Perhaps we'll be a little bit less eloquent, but we'll make a point nonetheless. Today's topic is going to be sourced from this interview of this woman named Candace Horbox, who is some sort of coach of some sort, a relationship coach. I'm a cool coach. She's not. And if you need any inclination as to why I might say that, is because she usually professionally operates under an alias. That alias being Ava Lovia. I know many men, it's unfortunate, but I know many men will kind of have something go off in their mind where they recognize that name, and that's because she's a porn star. So it's 2025, and we're getting lectures from porn stars on how to be Christian and how to be a good husband. W 2025, W America. Unreal and ridiculous. So before we begin, loyal friends, loyal family, you know what to do. You already have done it in some cases, and there's no more to be done if you've subscribed. So W to all my friends and family who are loyal enough to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, make an account, make a YouTube account, make a bullshit email so you can make the account and subscribe and like and comment and all that sort of stuff. We got to get up. Marchese Methods on Twitter kind of blows up every week, but Marchese Methods on YouTube, for whatever reason, their algorithm operates a little bit differently. So, going to need your help, my loyal friends and family. Going to need your help with that. So, all right. So this topic, this myth of women being attracted to chores. Seriously, we're still doing this? It's 2025, and not only are a lot of men stupid enough to still believe this, but a lot of women are still stupid enough to try telling men to do this. So in the interview, this woman specifies that, well, to get a girl turned on, you have to be doing the chores all day and keeping the house kept and that, yada, yada. And, you know, it's also tiresome. Seriously, we still have to operate on this. Can't we just start a little bit with being honest? And if we're not going to be honest because we're too stupid or something and we're playing all these games, just quit trying because it's old, it's tiresome. So now let's get into why they say this, right? It's important to identify what exactly it is they think they're saying on a conscious level. What they think they're saying being the operative phrase there. So here's how it goes usually. On a surface level, the first idea of it is be an adult, be mature. This comes from the ideas that we were all kind of imbibed with, or can't think of the word, but was infiltrated, prescribed to our minds of what it means to be an adult. Our parents told us you have to do the chores and you have to contribute and so on and so forth, clean up after yourself and all of that. And the basic premise there is because as an adult, and I put in quotes here because this is like really just basic human stuff. You can't really take adult credit for this, but the basic premise that operates on is, well, children, everything's provided for them, whereas adults, they provide for themselves and they sort of are self-sufficient. So the idea of doing the chores and all of that is because it emulates doing things yourself, having an independence. So that's where that first part is. The second part is this their idea of maturity, or what the average person's idea of maturity is. Now, on some level, yeah, it's mature, so to speak, to do chores, I guess. But really, that's kind of like basic level stuff. And they use that to bolster their argument. I'll get to that in a second. But it's basic level stuff, meaning that it also doesn't take as high of a priority as other more important projects that make you more money, make you more successful, that sort of thing. you know. And interestingly, this part about maturity and being juvenile and not taking care of yourself, isn't it interesting that they only really think about that because their parents programmed them to think that way? So in other words, right, because we remember how our parents trained us to do this and how they train us. They trained us to via reward. They would reward us with affection, good jobs, or toys, treats, whatever, for doing these chores to reinforce that. So interestingly, this is purportedly mature, but yet one of the root influences or root incentives for this behavior is to win over your parents' approval. And a lot of people live their whole life like this. They live their whole life basically just trying to get their parents' approval and affection. So, all in the name of maturity, we're desperately begging our parents for approval psychologically, by emulating what they expected us to emulate with this chores gimmick. So is that really mature? Is it really mature to live your whole life and make your life's mission the affection of your parents? You know, in one of my other videos, the college video, where people say, well, I want to live by my parents and that's my family. And it's like, past 18, isn't the whole point to start a family of your own and grow up? Why do you need to live near your parents so much? I'm sure they're nice and that's great and everything, but you don't need that. You're the parent now. You should be trying to get your own approval. And that operates on self-esteem and confidence and keeping your promise to yourself, you know, some of the themes that we might have talked about. So, moreover, they have this thought that it's mature to do chores. I hate how that kind of rolls off, the two, mature and chore. They think it is adult or mature to do chores because you are giving up that immediate pleasantries, the immediate gratification of being lazy and not doing anything and expecting somebody else to do something for you. And facing the responsibility of doing the chores irrespective of how you feel about it. So on some level, this is a correct interpretation of mature and correct interpretation of the process of doing chores. Yet there's a problem here, and the problem is that that's not exactly the pinnacle peak performance of maturity. In fact, if you think that doing the chores is such a task, such a heavy undertaking, because it's so painful to do them and it's so painful to give up your pleasure and somebody else doing it for you, you're not mature. Because what would be mature is to accept that these things exist and to not really have any sort of feeling about them either which way. You're not mature if you think you're a goody two-shoes good boy for doing fucking chores. Washing the dishes isn't exactly your peak performance. You know what? So you wash the dishes and you take out the trash and then that's it. You're like an accomplished individual. Give me a fucking break. You don't get credit for that. If you think that that's some sort of important thing, you're not an adult. You're not mature. You're mature if you recognize that these things are required, but they're nowhere near as important as self-growth projects, serious self-growth project, not just reading gay books, but seriously doing something with your time. School, whatever. And this is exemplified by any story you might have heard of a celebrity or whatever, or a music artist. They have their breakout album. And oftentimes the story that goes with that is that they didn't spend much time, they don't shave, they come out really scraggly looking. They don't eat, they forget to eat. And why do you suppose that is? Now, I'm not recommending that, but why do you suppose they do that? because they're prioritizing what's actually going to get them forward, which is their next album and next big hit song. And they do that, and then, once it's done, or once it's satisfactorily progressing, then you get back to these chores and all of that stuff. So the third layer to it, and this is what this girl said in the interview, and it's so funny when people like go to Barnes and Noble and they discover like evolutionary psychology for the first time, and then they're like, oh, well, we do these things because it's like instinct. Now, I talk about instinct a lot. I talk about the lizard brain a lot, but I dissect it more fully than just, because there's a lot of conflicting and competing interests within your lizard brain. So her epically epic 5,000 IQ evolutionary psychology hypothesis about this was that, well, when men pick up the sock off the floor and keep things orderly and do the errands when she asks, it's communicating a reliability. She's saying that because you're consistent with these things, you are reliable. And that is the modern day equivalent of her being able to trust you with her safety. That is the modern day equivalent of the protection that the hunter-gatherers did. Bro. You know what the modern day equivalent of hunter-gatherer what did hunter-gatherers do? They went out all day and tried to hunt and shit. So what do you think the modern day fucking equivalent of that is? It's having a job and bringing home money. The same way the hunter-gatherers would have the job of finding food all day and then bringing it home. So that's just like retarded. And it's really not modern day. It's modern day equivalent of women maintaining the facilities, maintaining the camp or whatever, the cave, while the men were out. That's actually what that is. That's why we still to this day have this. Every cell in our bodies tells us to fulfill these roles accordingly. That doesn't mean women have to be stay-at-home moms every second of every day and blah, blah, blah. But it does mean that's the analogy. So, secondarily, women do this thing where they conflate feeling safe versus actually being safe. In other words, the safety she's alluding to isn't actual real safety and comfort and orderliness. The safety she's referring to is safety from herself. Safety from her own neurotic tendencies. In other words, she has this neurotic, chaotic proclivity to overreact to socks on the floor, dishes, whatever. And so because that arouses her anxieties and all that, she's conflating that with actual anxiety and fear. Legitimate anxiety and fear. Now, you might see the problem with this. First of all, accountability moment. Accountability moment in so far as nobody else is responsible for your fucking feelings other than you. And nobody else should revolve their life around your fucking feelings, especially if you're fucking terribly skilled at managing them. Crazy concept, but you can just choose to not have a fucking heart attack over dishes and garbage or whatever. And the reason they want to do that, or this woman wants it to be that way, is because you want to talk about evolutionary psychology or deep psychology, is because the lizard brain cringes and cries at the prospect of the work and self-management energy it takes to regulate your own emotions. So because she doesn't want to take the responsibility of regulating her emotions herself and regulating her reactions and how she chooses to feel in response to things, because that would be work and that sucks, and that would be energy and that sucks. She places the responsibility of that on the man. And it's always interesting how women often have this problem of they want to have this strength and this independence and all of that, but at the same time, they assign men the responsibility of every last little thing about them and their feelings. And that's even funnier because it is, in a way, subordinate. That is subordinating yourself to men. That is, no matter what, you can conflate it anyway, but no matter what, if you're tasking somebody else with the responsibility of you and your feelings, you are subordinating to them. So isn't it interesting how men take all the responsibility with this type of thing, but women get this, get to have their cake and eat it too? So fourthly, the other point they make about this is, well, I've come across people, guys who are dirty bubbles like that and don't not take out the trash and play games all day and don't do the dishes and so on and so forth. So the problem here is they are trying to get those specific men to change their behavior. And the reason they're being is because they can't imagine not being attracted to those type of men, because they don't understand how to differentiate between men who have attractive qualities but apply them in a productive way and men who have attractive qualities and apply them in an unproductive way. So these types that don't do anything, whatever, don't do the dishes, and are indeed kind of unkempt and filthy, they have attractive qualities of not being subordinate, thinking independently, asserting their boundaries, not caring what the world thinks of them, not caring whether or not she approves of him. And those are those attractive qualities because it signifies that confidence, that independence. It signifies that he's not subordinate to her and subordinate to her offer of a treat, with the sexuality. Now, women can't imagine men with those attractive qualities applied productively because they fall into what I call the Goonette Dilemma. And the Goonette Dilemma is they are relying on their neurons and their dopamine to be spiked to signal to them whether or not a man is attractive. And men with those attractive qualities but apply them in this unproductive way tend to also be advertising those qualities. So they'll flaunt, they'll do the cool guy, they'll wear the cool guy outfit and have the cool guy chain and go and take the Instagram pictures and that sort of thing. And they advertise it. And when they kind of walk with this swagger and all of that, they're advertising it. And then because of that advertisement, it spikes these women's dopamine and neurons. And that's how they identify whether or not they're attracted to the guy. And they identify that because they're so reliant on feelings dictating every last little thought and process. They're reliant on that because it is the natural state of women. But a lot of them are also reliant on that because they're juvenile. On some level, women do need to be held accountable for how they think and process things. And they do need to exercise a little bit of a more balanced ego, so to speak, or anima, whatever it is. They need to be able to mediate between their superego and their id a little bit better, producing rational thought. And I know a lot of guys will try to say, well, you can't ask that of women and that sort of thing. But we have no choice because they're just going to perpetually fall into this Goonette dilemma, and it makes them miserable. Now, the guys who apply those attractive qualities productively, they're not advertising that, right? Because they're not concerned. the same way they're not concerned with getting, laid or whatever. Now, the other guys, the guys who apply it unproductively, they're concerned with getting laid, but because it's like a conquest thing. Whereas guys who apply these qualities productively are a little bit more concerned with conquest of the world, leaving their impact in the world, producing, manufacturing something for the world to take and return to them, favors, riches, and so on. But they're not advertising because that takes a lot. They're busy doing that type of thing. Thus, they're not really inclined to advertise, and they're not really inclined to, deal with the nonsense that comes with courting these types of women. So, now when I had one more good point. What was that? Damn it. I had a really good point. So many was going on in my head, and I didn't even have this part written down. As I spoke, I just sort of thought of that, but maybe I'll come back to it. Now, here's how they reconcile this, because they're really only conscious of what they're processing when they speak to this. They'll say, well, you're just coping because you're lazy and you don't want to do the chores and you're an incel and you're insecure or whatever. You're just coping because you want to be a big fat baby and be lazy. And on some level, some men certainly are like that. As a matter of fact, most men are like that because most people are just big fat coping lazy babies. But the question becomes, is this working? Is this making me happy? And the answer is no. And they really just use this to escape a counter argument. And the reason why they want to escape a counter argument is because what they're not conscious of is a couple of underlying layers of motivation for speaking this. So let me just double check. No. Yeah, I mean, there's really no evolutionary reason to be attracted to this. And chores really shouldn't be your fucking priority. Projects are your priority, especially as a man. Do chores make you more money? Do chores get you bigger, stronger, faster? Do chores grant you more success, more power in the world? No, they fucking don't. Because they're menial and they're nothings. That doesn't mean cope and take this and run with it as an excuse to be a dirty bubble. But it certainly means understand what your priorities are. So, here we go. So, the example, if you still don't understand the Goonette dilemma, the example is the Goon Dilemma. And I think women can actually oftentimes pick up on this. The Goon Dilemma is men who simultaneously are relying on their dopamine and neuron spikes to tell them whether or not a woman is attractive. And what does this come with? This comes with specifically seeking out or going after or chasing or trying to flirt with women who advertise their attraction and availability and so on. Who are the women that do this? Women who love the attention and love to advertise and love promiscuity and love making it a game and love feeling powerful over men by playing these games with them. So the Goon Dilemma is men getting, tunnel vision on women who have their fucking tits out all the time. And then complaining about their interactions with those women. Oh, these women are bitches, and all they want to do is get fucked. And they're a fucking bunch of bitches. And she wants to steal all my fucking money. And I'm done with it, dude. I don't want fucking these stupid fucking bitches. The Goon Dilemma, similarly, is a problem because these types, and this is actually more kind of a product of porn brain, they're only getting lit up by women who are advertising. But there are plenty of attractive women who aren't advertising, who do dress a little bit more modestly. If you have a dating app, try looking for that on those dating apps. Just look through and see if there's women on there who aren't fucking sticking their tits out and having bikini pics up. Try it with women who you could tell what their bodies are like. You could tell at the very least they're not fat, right? And then try interacting with those women and watch what the difference is. So if you don't understand the Goonette dilemma, the Goon Dilemma is the male version of that, whereby you're getting mad because all the women you find are stupid fucking bitches trying to get fucked and take your money and play games. But God forbid we chill out on our dopamine and our neurons and we start looking for women who do give off signals of, not playing games, of pleasantness, of, cordiality, of decorum, of modesty, of wanting a real relationship. Women who give off signals that they don't have a history of being a fucking degenerate. So. Alrighty. A lot of women will try suggesting that what I'm suggesting too is to lower their standards. Oh, well, but if I don't go after that guy who's aloof and, a dick or whatever, I'm lowering my standards. You're not lowering your standards. You just have to quit being a fucking goonette. There are plenty of attractive men. Think about attractive, successful men. And successful insofar as not like in the acting way, not in the celebrity way, but successful men that are businessmen and, own something. They're not concerned with all of this game playing and this nonsense. And they actually do seek out a good relationship. But you have to stop being a goonette. And you also have to stop with this, chores are attractive thing. Because the chores are attractive as a secondary layer of manipulation to it. So let me just double check my notes here. Not doing a good job of speaking off the cuff today, huh? I have to refer back to lots of the notes. But that's why it's Marchese Daily. Okay, this time, if I say and a lot, it doesn't count as low IQ or anything like that. It's actually high IQ because you're watching me think as I go with this, okay? So, notice with this chore thing, well, that goes along with what I'm about to say with the manipulation. Give this a try. If you're married and she suggests this, or just women overall suggest this as the universal, cheat code, square X, jump twice, R2 to get your wife to bang you, try it. Try doing it too when she doesn't ask for it or when she's not mad about it. Just do it on a random day at a random time. Clean the kitchen or something and watch what happens. You might get rewarded with your precious little treat like a good little doggy. But then keep doing it and then watch what happens. It's certainly not an algebraic equation where it's a linear y equals mx plus b. The more times you do it, the more you get it. So just try it. Try it from the perspective of experimentation too and not subordination too, and watch what happens. So notice too how it's such a big deal. It always kind of goes back to, if it's such a big deal, then do it your fucking self if it really bothers you that much. And a lot of them will argue, well, I'm not cleaning up after him. And sure, everyone should clean up after themselves. But is that really what we're talking about here? Is it really a problem that these men aren't cleaning up after themselves, or they're just not doing all the fucking chores for everybody in the house? That standard, miraculously, doesn't apply to anybody but the husband or the boyfriend or whatever. So, I'll say too, your life should not be fucking revolving around placating anybody. Now, that doesn't mean mistreat your spouse, but that does mean if your spouse wants to fucking pout about bullshit, let them fucking pout about it. What's so scary about that? Somebody's going to get mad at you? Okay, and? Look at me on Twitter. People get mad at me all day, every day on Twitter. Watch what fucking happens. And you might say, well, that's online. That doesn't count. Okay. Think about the times that somebody's just been mad at you, but they couldn't fucking do anything about it except, forbid you from the mighty vagina. Do you die? But did you die, though? Do you like have a shitty day? Maybe, but that's because you choose to have a shitty day. So think about this too, and think about accountability. It's not your fucking fault or your responsibility that somebody else chooses to be a big fat fucking crybaby over shit. You know, I hate like the boomer-esque thing, like facts don't care about your feelings or whatever, but it's like they fucking don't. And if you're if you're like in grad school, say, right? I'm in grad school. If you're in grad school and you have some big assignments you got to get done, yeah, that means the dishes are going to come fucking second. And you should stand your ground on that because that provides you, stuff like that provides you the later and greater gratification, the later and greater life when you're investing in yourself and you're working on something for real. That means the dishes go a day without getting fucking done. If you have to solve some elaborate sets of linear equations, whatever, if you want to make a content in a video, if you want to write an article, that stuff's going to take a little bit of a fucking backseat. And if your spouse wants to get mad about that, let them fucking get mad. If your spouse gets mad about that, it's time to start investigating whether or not you should, you married the wrong person too. Because that's not a mature person. That's not an adult. That's not a woman willing to be a wife. That's a woman who views the relationship as a transaction, as a deal to be brokered, whereby she's trying to get the best car for the lowest price, so to speak. It's not a negotiation. Furthermore, why would you want that? Why would you want to feel like you have to justify why she should be attracted to you? Attraction is an innate thing. Attraction is an innate thing based on your qualities and all that. And sometimes people use the empirical evidence of your accomplishments or what you're like or whatever as proof of attractive qualities. Women do this, right? They want proof that you're, ballsy or whatever by seeing what your career is like. So it certainly has some merits to use empiricism, to use what you do as a pointer to your attractive qualities. But your spouse should be attracted to you as an innate process. Think about how you're attracted to your spouse. Now, it's not quite the same because it's visual, which most cases they don't have to do anything for that. But when you think about the affection you have for your spouse, it has nothing to do with what they do for you. What they do for you is an expression of their affection and so on and so forth. But your attraction and your affection for them is innate, is independent of what they do for you. That's what attraction is supposed to be. Attraction is supposed to be, are you healthy? Are you fit? Are you smart? Whatever. Do you have qualities that ensure the further survival and reproduction of your children? And on an interpersonal level, because sex has an affection to it, has an interpersonal affection expression of intimacy to it. On an interpersonal level, if your wife needs you to pay for that, what that tells you is that she doesn't have an interpersonal affection for you. That tells you that she doesn't want to bang you because she loves you. That tells you that she bangs you just as a means to get something out of you. Isn't that precisely the manipulation and the objectification that they always complain about? So in that vein, that manipulation, what do you think some of the incentives are for that? Let me check time here. Marchese Daily, shorter, better thoughts. It goes on for an hour. So, lighting's good today too, huh? Let me get my... Lighting's good. And this is just the window too. Isn't that interesting? So, anyway, the manipulation is really more so because she wants you to do those chores. But that's just because she's too fucking lazy to do them herself. That's really like the gist of it. If it's really so bothersome and it's really something that we both got to do or whatever, she would just fucking do it if she sees it. And It's really asking you to be a subordinate little slave, a good little boy, a subordinate little slave. Be a good little doggy and you'll get a treat. Be a good boy and sit and you'll get a treat. It's really just asking you to be her servant. And women love doing this. Women love doing this, at least retarded women, I should say, because it's not all women. I'm married. My wife is nothing like any of this. As a matter of fact, I'm very grateful for her for being nowhere near as I shouldn't say nowhere near as retarded. Nowhere near retarded like these types of women are. So it's not all women, yada yada, but women love doing this because they go off of those feelings. Feelings are their driving indicator, and feelings are often a product of the lizard brain, and the lizard brain is telling them to be lazy. So because they can't rectify any incentive other than how they feel, they go with their lizard brain rather than some semblance of rationality, some semblance of, okay, well, that's just immediate gratification. That's not later and greater fulfillment. So they resolve this laziness by getting somebody else to do it for them. And they use sex as the payment for it. What's remarkable about this is in that moment, she might consciously think to herself, this is an attractive thing. But then when she sees how eagerly and earnestly you're willing to do all of this, she gets turned off. Why does she get turned off? Because you're now subordinating yourself to her. You are trading your independence and your dignity for sex. That signifies a couple things. Firstly, that just signals you're not confident. You don't think that you don't think you shouldn't have a sense of entitlement, but you don't think that you're entitled to her affection just by virtue of you being you and the qualities you have. It signifies that you're not confident. It signifies that you're willing to be subordinate. You're willing to place yourself beneath her, because that's what that is. You're being a little doggy, doing good little doggy tricks for your master. That's what that is. That's subordinate. That's a turnoff because that's not alpha, that's not masculine, that's not independent. You need to be independent to be able to provide for and protect the family and so on and so forth. So she winds up not giving you your precious little treat anyway. Especially because if she feels the need to even say this in the first place, she's not attracted to you in the first place. So that's a huge problem with it. Furthermore, a lot of them do this thing, stemming from insecurity, as a power dynamic. This gimmick, this game dressed up as attraction and all of that is really just a manipulation tactic to, launch a coup against your power. That's not to say that you have to dominate, and be power and tell her, be abusively powerful and all that. But that is to say it's a coup to usurp your power so that she can be the one in charge. Now, there's a basic instinct to this. Being in charge means you say what goes. And when you say what goes, everything is much more predictable and much more safe. You can dictate how things go based on your interest. And if you know that you're facilitating things to get the outcome that is in your best interest, you are safe, your incentives are safe, your agenda is safe. So there's that basic instinct. There's also a secondary instinct where people who view relationships as transactions also viewing it as a transaction means you're viewing it as a value transfer. So what they'll try to do is gather value by subordinating you, extracting value from you by being her. Sorry, the dog's barking. Extracting value from you by becoming more valuable by suggesting, look, this guy who was previously independent and all of that was willing to subordinate himself to me. That must mean my sex is so valuable, my pussy is so valuable that I can get a guy like this even to subordinate to me, which must mean my pussy being that valuable must mean that I'm really hot. I'm even hotter than I previously thought. And if I'm even hotter than that, that means that I could score a hotter guy than what I have now. That comes from insecurity. Needing to assert your hotness and needing to get that validation is an insecurity problem. That insecurity comes from attaching your sense of your value to that validation and to stupid things like how many people are attracted to you. So it's an insecurity thing of trying to assert, trying to level up one's hotness, trying to level up one's attraction. There's a third layer to this manipulation in that it is an optimization problem. If they can get a guy to subordinate themselves to her with this and give her all of the benefits of a husband without return or spouse without returning any of the benefits of a wife, that means she scored. She got the guy who will do anything for nothing, and that opens up the door for her to the freedom to go bang other guys. This is where cheating comes from. This opens up that freedom to go get fucked by all the chads and to dopamine max. To get the dopamine of that more further validation from getting banged by the hot guy. Further validation and further dopamine maxing. Further sex addictive dopamine maxing. The male equivalent to that is collecting women that he bangs but he does nothing for. It's an optimization strategy of trying to get the most for the least. This might sound like a good prospect, but what's the fundamental problem? You're not actually having a healthy, fulfilling relationship in doing this. You're not going to be happy. We talk a lot about true happiness and true fulfillment. True happiness and fulfillment doesn't come from this optimization. It's actually much more deep and soulful and faithful and much more separate from your basic pleasure instincts. Happy, fulfilling relationship is what you truly want because it's in every cell in your body. It's how God designed us. It is in your spirit. It is in your soul to have that relationship. And it is built upon a bond of spirit, of genuine affection for one another, absent these things like attraction and, what you get out of it. So, alrighty. I'm kind of, how am I doing? I'm doing good here, huh? So there's another layer, and this is separate. What about the guys who say, dude, just freaking do this, man. Just freaking shut up and freaking do it. Take this from a married man. Just freaking do it. Let me drink my drink here. Goated energy drink, by the way. Goated energy drink. It's not an endorsement or anything. I don't have near enough of a following to endorse or anything. But totally goated energy drink. And if you're going to be like, but I thought you're healthy, you're retarded if you don't understand that energy drinks are not what you think. Especially when they're raspberry tea energy drinks. Alrighty, so anyway. Now, what about the men who say, dude, just freaking do it. Just freaking shut the hell up. Happy wife, happy life. These characters are so used to having to negotiate their attraction and having to pay for attraction that not a single synapse in their mind could ever produce enough electricity to transfer neurons to separate one way and connect another way, to think about maybe this isn't how a relationship is supposed to go. They are so inundated with the propaganda and feminism and all that stuff that they biophysiologically cannot entertain the prospect of women just wanting to fuck you because they want to fuck you and you're attractive. So what they do is say, dude, just shut the freaking hell up. Happy wife, happy life. Because they're so terrified of their women getting mad. She can get mad all she wants. Like the jokes about, I got married 2 years ago. You know what that means, right? I haven't slept on a bed in 2 years. You know, the couches are actually pretty fun to sleep on, You get used to it, All because they're so terrified of their wife getting fucking mad. As if she could fucking do anything. She's just gonna pout like a big fat fucking baby. So they say all this, that's where happy wife, happy life comes from. So now they say, oh, dude, just freaking shut the hell up and freaking do it. This is because they are so sex slave, porn-brained, subordinate to pussy that they can't fathom there's more to life than that. That is their number one priority. That is the center of their universe. Dude, how is she in here every time? Oh, she's not going to jump up. That is the center. That is the center of their universe. Not a single thing they will ever do will be for any incentive other than to get pussy. Haha, get it? They operate on pleasure. Pleasure is the only thing to be attained in their life. And women's approval is the only thing to be attained in their life. That comes from everything from insecurity, that comes from mommy issues, but ultimately that comes from not approving of themselves and not thinking of themselves as men, independent of whether or not women assign you the label of man. You know. Side note on that too. The most subordinate, the bitchiest thing you could do is to allow women to be the arbiters of whether or not men have value. Women fucking you is not the empirical evidence as to whether or not you have value. You have value in and of yourself because you're a man, you're capable of things, you grind, you do whatever, you're funny, whatever. And that's not to be like gay and be like, you're special and all that. But that is to say, that's all fucking bullshit. Especially because they make those decisions based on retarded things, like whether or not you have a fucking iPhone versus an Android. All right, so don't buy into that. So anyway, getting back to these characters. So because they're only possible, their Earth revolves around pussy, they don't care about anything other than getting it. So women promise them, sex in exchange for chores, and they're like, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Roger that. And they go and they do it. And they just shut the hell up and they dress it up as the manly thing to do, as the manly thing of putting aside your ego. But it's not ego. It's about dignity. It's about being treated with respect. It's about having a relationship that's real. Your relationships, it should not be a transaction. Your relationship should be genuine. Your wife or spouse or girlfriend, whatever, should be with you because she wants to be with you, not because you do fucking chores for her. But they can't understand that because women don't want to be with them because they're totally fucking beta-ized, beta-cuck pussies. Because their entire life revolves around pleasantries, dopamine, drugs, beer, fucking sports ball. Their life doesn't revolve around having a mission, doing something for the world, uplifting other men. Their life strictly revolves around pleasure and fucking pussy. So they masquerade it as masculine, but it's not masculine because it's subordinate. And they try to say, well, you just have an ego because they can't fathom wanting something other than pussy for real. The only possible reason somebody could be, doing something different is because, well, they're coping and seething and trying to take their power back from women or something. So they really, and what's funny about this is they don't even realize, they think they're getting a fucking sweet deal because their wife or girlfriend or whatever in this process, instead of banging them once every 3 months, bangs them once a month. And they're like willing to take whatever fucking scraps they could get. They fucking oink, oink, oink in their fucking mud pit. And then when they get a little fucking scrap, a little fucking crumb, they lap it up every chance they get because they're that fucking desperate for it. I mean, seriously, what's so fucking great about it? And a lot of guys know to think that, but they still can't reconcile it. And if you can't reconcile it, it's because you have an issue of wanting feminine approval. I mean, the highest form of feminine approval is having sex with you, right? So men who seek that are desperate for feminine approval, which necessarily means they can't approve of themselves independently. If you want to learn how to approve of yourself independently, watch some of my other videos, Pleasure versus Happiness. You got to keep your promises to yourself, and you have to do what you believe is right. You have to live your life by what's righteous and what's best for you. And a lot of times that means prioritizing your development of your projects, development of your craft, development of your skills, development of your life, development of your knowledge, all of that stuff. Alrighty, so I think that's every point I wanted to make about this topic here. The solution is, and a lot of guys are going to complain about this, look, if she tries to tell you to be a good little dog and get treats, just forget it. Stay away from women like this. Let me just double check because I have some embedded tweets here. Let me say. And if you really think this isn't manipulative, try doing the opposite. Try saying to women, if you clean the house and suck my dick and wash the dishes and cook for me, I'll take you out on dates. That's all you have to do. Just do all the house stuff in the kitchen and take care of the kids and blow me, and I'll take you out on dates. Watch the outrage that they'll have when you say the male version of what they're saying. Why do they get mad? Because they feel it in their soul that that's transactional, that's manipulative, that's not true attraction, that's coping and being lazy. So you get the point. All right, so the real solution here is a lot of guys in this, like, not that I'm in the red pill space or whatever, but these red pill pickup whatever types will say there's no such thing as women that aren't like this. There are, and I'm not going to give you the not all women are like that thing. I get it. The women that behave like this are indeed the norm of the distribution. They're the 64%. They're the middle. And honestly, really more like, I forget how the percentages go, but really the left end of the bell curve aren't an option if the middle curve is like this, because the left end's worse, right? So the right end, so really an estimated probably like, 15% or something? One standard deviation plus 15% or so. Let's just say 15% of women aren't like this. That seems bleak. That seems grim. That seems like there's no hope. But you can find women like this. This goes into, and the way you could find women like this is it goes back into the Goon Dilemma. A lot of these guys are convinced that all women are like that is because their vision is strictly narrow on the normal distribution curve of women who behave like this because they're sticking their tits out, and that's the only way that their brains go off in their attraction for women. There are attractive women who aren't getting fucked, who aren't going to the club and all that. It is a grind. It will take a while to find them, but they are there. I got married to one. So, I shouldn't say one. I got married to my wife. My wife in no way, shape, or form behaves like this. She is pleasant. She has decorum. She would never treat me like this. I would never treat her manipulatively. It is possible. It's a grind. It might take forever, but that's okay. This is the part of your life that's not your main mission anyway. This is a side quest. This is a separate skill tree. So if you're not finding them, it's fine for now. You got time. They're fucked. They don't have much time. You do, right? Because of biology and that sort of thing. But you got to let go of the Goon Dilemma. You got to, really seek out women who aren't sticking their tits out everywhere. The way to find them is whatever. Dating apps, they're everywhere. They go to the supermarket just like you and that sort of thing. And if you don't believe me, remember in the beginning, the person who gave this interview is a former fucking porn star. Not even former, actually. It was going around to put her on blast that she was still getting fucked on camera, except this time it's by her husband. Oh, wow. Yeah, really reformed here. Yeah. Wow. Impressive. So, that's that. Women are not attracted to chores. They're attracted to you if you're a man and you're masculine. And, quit listening to this fucking nonsense. So, that's going to do it for today. That is Marchese Methods, Marchese Daily. If you would like one-on-one, one-on-two, or one-on-three coaching, head on over to my website, marchesemethods.com. We talk about how to get your eyes on the prize, right? So, for example, in this one, the prize is not getting fucking pussy. The prize is a happy, fulfilling, functioning relationship and you having peace and independence and a sense of strength and a sense of yourself and your value. So, we'll talk a lot about that stuff when we do our coaching sessions. I'll probably set up my website. I got to redo it. I'm going to set up my website too to allow sort of $5 a month subscriptions, something like that, for people to be able to text me if you kind of have onesie, twosie questions. If you don't always have an hour or something and you want to just kind of some quick answers, you don't really feel like you need all that much help and coaching. So I'm going to set something like that up soon. Be sure to follow me on X at Marchese Methods. YouTube, you already see it right here, Marchese Methods. And get your eyes on the prize and find your fulfillment. All right. Sift through the nonsense and start asking yourself what it really means for you to be happy, especially in your relationships like this. So thanks for tuning in. See you next time.